Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast, and we are rolling along Friday night games here. These playoff game threes we've got. We're looking at the Heat and the Sixers headed back to Philly for that game three. Down 0-2 are the Sixers. Kick it off with that one. We also are going to bring you the Western Conference game. The Phoenix Suns also up 2-0, headed back to Dallas for that game three in that series. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. You continue to follow along with us as we bring you each and every playoff game video, as well as these player props. And also want you to head to playpicks.com. Check out the great article Nate has up with some best bets, player props as we continue to roll along in these playoffs. He will be continuing along on playpicks.com with some great stuff there for you guys. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's jump into it.
Yeah, surprising to see both 2-0 teams as they hit the road, basically in a toss-up. The Heat -1, the Suns +1 as we record this on Thursday. I'm more shocked that the Suns are not at least 3 or 4 point favorites after the way they just lit up the Mavs down the stretch, did whatever they wanted. And the Heat, I'm surprised that the line is at this with Joel Embiid looking very much questionable to play in game three. And then if they're down 3-0, I don't know if he's going to be going to appear at all. So the series odds now is +230 for a sweep for Miami. The gentleman's sweep still seems the most likely to me, +170 as well as odds makers there. Even if Embiid plays, I think this probably only goes 5, but for game three here, I will take Miami with no spread. Absolutely. The total at 210, I would lean over a little bit because Philly's offense has been a little bit better at home. They did kind of push the pace in game two, got Maxey out in transition to keep the pedal down in the second half. But really, it's about Miami's offense and Miami's depth. Now, Victor Oladipo all of a sudden is a big plus off the bench. They already had the sixth man of the year, who outscored the Philly bench 25-19 in game one. Oladipo matched them in game two with 19, and the team of Miami 52-19 in terms of paint points. Winning handily despite getting outscored in the paint actually in game two, because Miami shot 14 for 39 from three, which is a bit of an outlier. Makes me definitely have some pause. The over, not really messing with the total in general. Miami can win either way. I definitely lean towards just taking them to keep doing what they do, which is win on the road. They won 10 of their last 12 road games to close the season, excluding that Orlando game where they just rested. They had a 120 offensive rating despite shooting just 31% from three. So if you tell me, they're going to regress after shooting 48% in game two at home, well, maybe not. They had the exact same percentage home and road from deep, and they're cooking this Philly team that's shorthanded. Really didn't have much depth anyway. With Embiid in there, their bench was pretty awful since they drained it for that Harden trade. We know what Harden, Tobias Harris, Maxey, none of them known as great defenders. And Bam is eating without Embiid in the middle. And it's more about Miami's defense just putting the clamps down. They were a little more dominant in the first half than the second half in game two. But over the course of these playoffs, they might be the best defense out there, allowing the third fewest paint points, second fewest second chance, allowing the fewest assists per game with the number one 3-point defense, and holding Philly to just 22% from three. So not getting it done inside or out. And of course, James Harden, after another pretty good first half, just shut down in the second half, held to 4 points in consecutive second halves. The Sixers are definitely sunk if Embiid's out. And I think you can bet it now and just hope that he doesn't play or that he doesn't have a superhuman effort, even if he does play, because remember, he still has torn ligaments in his thumb, even if he can deal with the light. Apparently he just was able to look at his phone yesterday because the light is bothering him so much. So it's a real concussion. It's not just like the NBA is holding him out for protocol. He's very much in a fog and not healthy right now.
Yeah, the way his coach Doc Rivers put it, he's got a ton of clearances he needs to pass, and he has not passed a single one of those. And so that was what he said after game 2 last night. I think, one of the things I kind of hone in on and have been sort of looking at in the first 2 games of this series is those bench points that you mentioned. I mean, we already know Miami led the league in bench points this season, led the league in 3-pointers made off the bench and all that stuff. All of that attributable to the 6th man of the year, likely, right, Tyler Hero. So it's not really surprising. The thing is Philly was already, to your point, before that Harden trade, they were already in 25th in points from their bench. They're not, dropping to 28th in the league after the Harden trade on the season. So the bigger, it's a gap that was already huge for Miami. And then you throw in the fact that, Depot is back and he's at least a menace on defense, if not, a nice solid contributor on offense as well. And Gabe Vincent's coming in, giving him big minutes that they realize that they don't need the Duncan threes right now, especially in this series. This is not a team that's going to be matching them with threes. So maybe if they were to play a team like Boston and realize that, obviously Boston can hit a ton of threes as well with pretty much every player on the floor, except for when Rob Will's out there, they might try to get Duncan in there for that level of matching, that level of 3. But I think obviously Spo's found something in the fact that this defense is just absolutely insane. And even more so now that they have Debo back without Duncan Robinson there, you substitute a great athletic defender. And that's what they've done, in the playoffs. Honestly, it's a little bit surprising, but Milwaukee's defensive rating is a little bit better than the Heat in the playoffs for that number 1 defensive rating. But still, Miami, in those playoffs, they're allowing the opponent to shoot 29% from 3. That's best. Philly shooting 22%. I believe you pointed out, which is, going to continue when we talk about this in the other game video. If they don't have Embiid to create sort of an unbalanced defense in the way that he needs to get double teamed and then can get the defense on its heels, passing it around the perimeter, getting guys like Tobias Harris, Danny Green, and Maxey and Harden open on catch and shoot threes, then they would be in a much better position if they could do that, but they don't have that. See the 22% that they're shooting. And I think it's really, really interesting that James Harden continues to be just absolutely atrocious in the second half of games. And it's been the last 2 of this series specifically, 8 points, going 2 for 9 from the field. And just really, it's what we talked about in the other game videos as well. He had 11 at half in game 2 there. And then, like we said, continuing on for the rest of the game there with he had 15 at half or 16 and a half in the second half of that game 2, which was a very similar line in game 1 as well. So it's becoming a trend for sure where, he's getting a couple open things here and there in the first quarter, a little bit in the second quarter, nothing in the third and fourth. And it's just really at that point, like we've said, they're clearly just taking the ball out of his hands the way that they handled Trae Young. None of this is a fluke to me. You also look at what Bam is doing without Embiid at this point. It's not really just it's a sizable enough sample. I think even just in the last 4 without Embiid that they've gone 4-0, have the Heat. Bam we're talking about 71% from the field, 24 points, 11 boards, and 4 assists in 33 minutes just in this series alone in the last 2. Not even attempting a 3 because he doesn't need to. And he's 9 for 10 from the free throw line per game in each of these first 2. So he's getting what he wants. Jimmy, he's kind of just letting things happen and not forcing it, which is fine because there's shooters all over the floor. I don't know, man. Even if Embiid comes back, to your point, if Embiid does come back, maybe you think that they can steal a game if he's close to himself. But either way, a sweep in this one feels as likely as a sweep probably in that Phoenix series. Both of those are going 4, maybe 5, just depending on where you find the value if you wanted to bet on those.
Yeah, Miami is not a team that you expect much of a let up from with Spoelstra, with that culture that they have, of course, but the rest advantage, which they're still kind of fueled on, hashtag heat culture. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
That they're still kind of fueled on this rest advantage because of their depth, their superior depth, and the fact that they had a much easier first round series, and they're 20-6 now with a rest advantage on the season. 18-3 straight up when they get at least 2 days off. This is normal rest, but I'm still reading into those numbers in terms of them just wearing down the Sixers as the game goes along. And that's why you see in the second half, these leads just grow and grow. Just too many weapons for Miami who were able to actually just rest Jimmy and still close out the Hawks last round. what they did against the Hawks on the road with a 107 defensive rating is really impressive when you think about what Atlanta's home road splits were. 21 of 24 wins in coming into the postseason. Had they been at home, they just night and day at home. And Philly's actually been slightly better on the road this season. They're 19 and 25 against the spread at home. And not great offensively in their last 7 playoff home games. They've lost 4 of those, and haven't really had the same kind of defend your home court mentality maybe since Jimmy Butler was there in 18 or 19. And I mean, just every advantage in terms of mental toughness is on Miami's side here. And even if Embiid does come back, I think that actually just like kind of raises their antennae and makes them come out and compete harder. Jimmy in the post game said he wants Embiid to play in the series for sure. They love the challenge. Bam has done well against them. They've won 4 straight against the Sixers when Embiid plays and Bam plays, right? So not like they can't handle him. And the Sixers can't seem to handle Bam or the depth Miami's throwing at them, along with all the wrinkles that they'll throw into that game plan to keep Doc Rivers and his thin squad off balance.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why you keep seeing what you see from Harden getting points in the first half, even Philly getting points in the first half, which you called correctly in game 1, astutely was, take the spread there in the first half for Philly as they keep it close early. But Spo's clearly fine with that. As you said, they wear them down. They know that there's fewer scorers. They know that they don't have a bench, and they know how guys are able to beat them, and they're just not giving that up. For instance, Tobias Harris, he's not going to be left open for a catch and shoot 3, and he's not going to be left on an island, in space against a shorter defender. Never see that. Same concept. And it's in part because they can switch multiple 6'6" and taller guys onto you, and a bunch of dogs on defense, especially now that Depot's back standing right 6'4", 6'5", super long athletic guard. You add that into it. It's like I always say when you're playing fantasy football and you pick up the guy who's injured for the first 6 games and then he comes back, it's Depot coming off the bench and just adding that fuel at this point. If Embiid comes back, it's still just not a good matchup for them, man. I mean, 6'9", 6'10", maybe Bam Adebayo is still, as formidable a foe as he's going to see. Plus you're going to have, either one of PJ Tucker or Jimmy coming flying at him as well. The other one is just going to basically take Harden out of the game. So there's just too much for them. And I really like where they're at. I did put a little bit on them at plus 500 to come out of the East a while ago. And I'm feeling pretty good about that right now as they're slightly worse than that at this point, obviously, since there's only 4 teams left.